Cinemajaw is sponsored by Cards Against Humanity. They asked us not to read an ad. Enjoy the show. You're listening to Cinemajaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location at Cards Against Humanity in Chicago. My name is Matt Kay, and with me is
Rod, the movie guy, and sitting inside the fish tank is Filmy and Phil.
How's it going, guys?
This week on Cinemajaw, Matt, we take a trip into small town USA, or really small town anywhere in the world.
Small town anywhere in the world.
Right? We didn't limit it to just the USA.
No, but I think most of mine are, now that you mention it.
But that is our topic this week. Top 5 movies about small towns.
Were you born in a small town, right?
I was not.
You're born here in Chicago?
Suburb of Chicago, but I mean literally touching Chicago. And Cicero, for those familiar, most people would actually say it's part of the city. The L, which is our main mass transit system, still runs into the suburb I grew up in. So I could actually get on the blue line and come into the city. So how much of a suburb is it? You know?
It's more. It's like Yonkers to New York City.
Right. It's right on the outskirts of the city.
Yeah.
How about you?
Small town. Born in, I don't even remember the name of the town, Rahway, New Jersey, and then grew up in New Fairfield, Connecticut, to get pretty specific. So both very small, almost rural in Connecticut, but right on the edge of New York City. I wouldn't say the edge, but hour and a half outside of New York City. Spent a lot of time there.
Well, we are going to be going eye for an eye on a film that takes place in a small town. I believe it's a fictional small town.
It is, yes.
So, got us thinking about small towns, and doing the research turned out to be quite the topic.
It's a good one. It's a fun one.
It gave me a chance to talk about movies that I haven't brought up on the Jaw ever or in a very long time. So I think I got 5 good ones for you, Jawheads.
I'm pretty sure I've talked about mine, but at least a couple, it's been a very long time. So yeah, me too.
Awesome. In addition to that, we have even more going on this week. Right, Phil?
You know it, Rye. You talked about it a little bit earlier tonight, but we are also going to be going eye for an eye on It, Chapter 2.
And we have a review of Official Secrets.
That's the new Keira Knightley movie. Can't wait to talk about that. Plus, Phil, as mentioned, is running out of time here on the Jaw. Just a few episodes left.
The fish tank is slowly filling with water.
You mean draining of water.
Draining of water.
But we thought it'd be a good time for Phil to challenge Matt Kay once again in movie trivia. We'll be playing It Chapter 2 cast movie trivia.
I got to defend my undefeated streak against Phil.
Still going with that lie.
It's not a lie. Undefeated.
We also are going to touch on some Hollywood headlines. That was a blast last week, so we're going to try it again this week.
Yeah, this is fun.
And it's September, Matt.
Oh, is it?
Isn't it quick? The 9th month of the year.
How about that?
I think the only problem I have doing these themes of the month is it makes us concentrate on exactly when the passage of time is happening, because we're preparing the facts and the clips throughout the week.
Oh, so you're more conscious of the calendar pages turning?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so as we get close to the end of August and so forth, it feels to me like the year and the months are just moving that much faster.
We got to slow it down, right?
I agree.
Maybe just do quarterly themes or something.
Well, we have a new theme for you in September. We also have a new riddle.
Yes.
We're going to start with the theme. How about that? We have been celebrating actors, actresses, genres of film, even film directors all year long. Of course, we did Quentin Tarantino. We just finished up Morgan Freeman. We've done the likes of Samuel L. Jackson, Brie Larson.
Yeah.
It's been a great one.
It's been tremendous, man. Some fantastic. We did romantic comedy.
We did Stephen King. We also did Tilda Swinton.
The great Tilda Swinton.
Yes. So it brings us to September, a new person to celebrate. She has a new film coming out in September entitled The Goldfinch. Matt?
We are celebrating the great one and only Nicole Kidman. She was born in Honolulu, of all places.
Really?
Yes. She is, of course, an Australian American, but she was born in Honolulu in 1967, June 20th to be exact.
Wow. I think this is a great month to celebrate Nicole Kidman.
I do too. She's great. She's still making great movies. I'm excited.
She's one of the best going right now, for sure.
No doubt about it, man.
So let's start with a Nicole Kidman fact.
Yes, Matt kind of stole my thunder with the Honolulu fact, but I think this one's also pretty good. Today's Nicole Kidman Cinemajaw fact goes back to her Oscar-nominated role in Moulin Rouge. Nicole Kidman suffered broken ribs while filming a dance sequence in Moulin Rouge. After a 2-week rest, she did return to filming, but still was suffering extreme pain. And it was believed that her condition was aggravated by the film's period corset that they put her in. Director Baz Luhrmann actually had to film a part, the part where Satine says, "a real actress," while Nicole was in a wheelchair. And the injuries also cost her the lead in David Fincher's Panic Room.
Wow.
Wow, that's kind of a sad fact.
I remember Nicole Kidman because I remember there was some trivia. Obviously, Jodie Foster got the lead in Panic Room. And there was trivia in there that there's a phone call made that Jodie Foster calls like a friend. I think it might even be a hotline. I can't remember exactly, but she makes a phone call outside of the house, and the voice on the other line is Nicole Kidman. And I had always just heard it was because Nicole Kidman was originally, set to star in Panic Room. I didn't know it was because of an injury on Moulin Rouge. Interesting.
I wonder, she seems so delicate. There's something about her that's very elegant, I suppose is a better word, but I could see her being susceptible to injury.
I just wonder how workers' comp worked. You think she filed a claim?
I don't know.
Well, 2 weeks off, She was probably watching Tom Cruise movies.
Yeah, hey, Baz Luhrmann, loosen the corsets, okay? Jesus.
All right, so that is our first fact. Many more to come. Clips, you can expect some trivia and all kinds of good stuff all month long on Nicole Kidman. The other new thing we have to do here for the Jawheads, Matt, is a new riddle.
It's housekeeping time, guys.
It is.
We're going to read the August riddle first.
Yeah, before we get to September, let's remind the Jawheads what the August riddle was.
This is your August riddle, guys. I'm afraid, very afraid. Not of roller coasters. I used to work at an amusement park. And not of skeletons either. I made a movie in their name. Falling food from the sky? Now that is scary. Now let me bust this high school party and take all their Gold Slick vodka. Who am I?
All right, this was turned out to be a little bit easier here. We heard from quite a few Jawheads. The clues here, Matt, I'm very, very afraid, was a hint to Inside Out, in which this character played fear, not of roller coasters, because he worked at an amusement park in Adventureland, and not skeleton either. I made a movie in their name. It was the Skeleton Twins. Falling food from the sky, cloudy with a chance of meatballs. Now let me bust this high school party and take all their Gold Slick vodka. We know that Gold Slick vodka was from Superbad. The answer was Bill Hader.
Have you seen all these videos going around on YouTube, the deep fake videos of Bill Hader impersonations?
No.
Really? Where they switch out his face very subtly for whatever actor he's portraying or impersonating?
Interesting.
You haven't seen these?
No, I'll have to check them out.
Phil, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I don't, actually.
Oh, wow. I got a meme that Phil doesn't even know. I'll have to show you guys during the break.
All right. Well, let's pick out a winner of the August riddle, and it is, who do I got here? Teddy Roth.
Oh, all right.
Congrats, Teddy Roth. You can win a prize pack, which actually is $25 of Fandango gift card, or you can take Matt on in trivia. Write us feedback@cinemajaw.com. We'll get that all squared away with you.
Yeah. And you know, if you beat me in trivia, we'll still give you the gift card. Maybe.
You're sweetening the prize.
I know.
That brings us to September's riddle, Matt.
It does indeed. Here we go. Ghosts are in my past, both recently and a long time ago. I'm known for my good looks, but you just might fall in love with my voice. I've done many. I've been a snake, a dog, a punk rock hedgehog, and a mermaid princess. But it's not all whispers in my ear. I'm also an assassin in at least 2 different roles. Who am I?
If you know the answer to our September riddle, write us feedback@cinemajaw.com. Your name will go in a hat, and we will pull out one lucky winner.
As we do every month.
Good luck, Jawheads. That was our house cleaning. Went smooth, didn't it, man?
It went pretty quick.
I like it.
Yeah. Nice and quick. It's good.
Brings us to Eye for an Eye.
Yes, this week on Eye for an Eye, It, Chapter 2. In the sleepy town of Derry, the evil clown Pennywise returns 27 years later to torment the grown-up members of the Losers Club, who have long since drifted apart from one another. The film stars Jessica Chastain, Bill Hader, and James McAvoy. It is directed by Andy Muschietti, who directed the first It film and also the 2013 foreign horror film Mama. Rye, we throw it over to you, pal.
All right. I mean, who can't be excited for It Chapter 2 after It Chapter 1 was so much fun?
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the heck out of it. I know some people felt scared by this movie. Some more found it thrilling and just a fun ride. That was where I probably sat. But heck yeah, I'm very excited for It Chapter 2. Very, very interested.
Yeah, ring the bell, man. I'm in. Big time. I'm a sucker for good horror. I was pretty scared, so this one I'm nervous, but I'm going to go see it.
Phil?
What kind of jagbag wouldn't be? Yeah, of course I'm in. I think I was surprised by how good the first one was, and we celebrated the man for God's sake. Stephen King's a master.
Right.
He is.
He has been celebrated here on Cinemajaw. That is our planned review next week, It Chapter 2.
So look forward to that, Jawheads.
Yes. 3 interesteds for Chapter 2. Like we say, we'll get a review out to you. Speaking of new movies, Matt, the year was 2003. The president of the United States at the time was George Bush. The key phrase being thrown around was weapons of mass destruction. It was a time of unrest, and it seemed to many that the U.S. was rushing into a war with Iraq. The new film, Official Secrets, starring Keira Knightley, tells the true story of a leaked memo that shows how desperate the U.S. was to get coalition forces on their side. I hit the war room to see if this secret was worth telling.
Someone has betrayed their government and their country.
You might need our help.
If we do not go public, we would be conceding that no one can ever tell the people when their government is lying.
Your marriage will be interrogated.
My husband had absolutely nothing to do with this.
He's a Muslim.
I'm sorry?
Keira Knightley plays Catherine Gunn, a British translator working for a British intelligence agency. In the background on TVs, newspapers, and radio, we see and hear news clips of the U.S. government ramping up an effort to go to war with Iraq because they felt they were a major threat with their weapons of mass destruction. Not everyone was on board with this thought. Still to this day, the Guinness Book of World Records has the anti-war protests against the invasion of Iraq to be the largest in human history. 600 cities around the world had people protesting, and numbers reached between 10 and 30 million people who took to the streets. The U.S. needed to get the United Nations to give them the vote to make the war legal, and that did not seem likely to happen. This is when Catherine Gunn was sent a memo from the U.S. that was instructing the British government to help the U.S. spy on representatives of the United Nations in order to gain information they could then use to blackmail them with if they did not vote for the war. What to do with this information? Working for the British government, Catherine is sworn to keep intelligence like this secret, but something of this magnitude that could affect so many might be big enough to risk not only her career, but her life for. I mentioned this is based on a true story, but in my case, Matt, it was a story I had not heard, and I think that's the importance of this film, to document this incident. Ralph Fiennes pops up as a lawyer who comes to the aid of Catherine Gunn as the final 30 minutes turns into a legal drama. The film's structure is basic in its telling, and while both Knightley and Fiennes are solid, neither role actually calls for heavy lifting. I enjoyed Official Secrets more so for the telling of this historical case than the actual entertainment value of it. But I was a fan, and I am recommending.
It's a crazy story, dude.
It is, and to see that's just the lead-in to where this goes, because...
Well, we all know that the U.S. did, in fact, invade Iraq.
Right, absolutely, we know that. But this idea that they were trying so desperately to make sure that they could get the votes...
Did they blackmail U.S.?
Well, I don't want to go into exactly where this goes,
Okay.
but obviously there is a court case. And I mean, if people didn't want to, for some reason, go see the movie, they could just, Google Catherine Gunn, and, it's all over the internet exactly what transpired. It was just a story I didn't hear in such detail.
Sure, I'd never heard it. Yeah.
As it was coming up, there's bits and pieces I remember hearing about the possible blackmail. I remember that being, this idea that the U.S. was asking British intelligence to spy on people. And I remember it somewhat bubbling up in the news. But there were so many stories and things going on at that time that I don't know if I focused on this one particular, incident. And by seeing it in a film form, in a narrative like this, it really just explains just how desperate the U.S. was to get the votes on their side to, using air quotes here, make the war legal. And it wasn't just an invasion. And even to this day, you can look that up and wonder exactly how legal it was in, the UN's eyes.
The history is written by the victor. Was there a favorite scene or one in particular?
So I like the principles the movie fights for. There's a line in the film that one of the characters says when they see that they're collecting information, and we see this all the time, where governments collect information because maybe they're doing, an investigation into such matter, and then when they go to release it to the public, they only release X amount
It's
of
redacted.
that information,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so there's this great line in there where a character says, I think all information that is collected for the public should be made public. And it's such a simple thing, but it seems so hard still to this day to actually get the, writing on the wall. I mean, there's stuff about the Kennedy assassination that's still not released that was found when they were doing the investigation. I like that idea. And then also a scene where Knightley's character, Catherine Gunn, pleads how much she cares, that she cares about the people, both sides of the conflict that'll be affected by the war. She's caring about just the human experience of what's about to transpire, no matter what side you're on. Wonderful scene.
That's
so I
great.
really like the principles of the film.
Any scene you had trouble with?
So two things. The basic structure of the movie that I hinted at is, this is like filmmaking 101, from like the way it's going to start, through to the end. It's extremely basic. Something you almost seen on a TV movie, It doesn't take many risks in its storytelling. And then there's this moment where they build up a little drama, and I'm sure this probably happened to some degree, where Catherine Gunn's husband was used sort of against her and was being deported. And the way the film does it is because they need to capture it in sort of like a dramatic fashion. It's one of these where they use almost like a down to the clock second, or he's either
a ticking clock.
Yeah, he's almost out of the country or he's not, and it's does it ever happen like that where we're literally talking 1 second he's out of the country and 1 second you saved him? They really go for the ticking clock.
Does she have to choose between the blue wire and the green wire?
Right, connects them and somehow he's okay.
Yeah. Any influences?
There's a film out there entitled Fair Game with Sean Penn and Naomi Watts, again about a whistleblower and also dealing with the Iraq War. And then a little good vibe there above All the President's Men, right? Getting the truth out to the public, even if it's sometimes hard to swallow. And you're risking a lot, your profession, maybe even your life, but getting the truth out there is important.
Well, if you can handle the truth, Ryan, what did you learn?
Really, the whole story was worth learning here. That's, I think, the reason to go see Official Secrets is for the story and the implications of what exactly transpired, and it's fascinating. The result is very damning. And the other thing I learned, also very important too, is that Keira Knightley talks with her teeth clenched the entire time.
Do you think she just talks that way?
I thought she was doing that just because she was in a lot of period pieces and maybe it did something for her.
She's like going for her character.
Teeth clenched like this. But no, I noticed even in a movie like this, she talks like this.
Does she do that in other movies, though?
All the time.
Really?
Yeah, look for it.
I think you just ruined Keira Knightley for me, man. Have we got a movie poster quote?
A secret worth telling.
That's okay.
Yeah, pretty basic. Damn it. 3 Jaws for Official Secrets. I am recommending it.
You think this thing's going to get legs?
I hope so. I hope people see it. This is one of those movies, I think it's a tough sell because I don't know how many people are interested, unfortunately, in the story. I hope that people are. I hope my review gets, a few people into the theater seats to check this one out because I think it's an important story to, sort of reflect on and learn from.
Well done, Ryan.
3 Jaws, 4 Official Secrets. if you see the movie and you have Twitter pulled up, shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw, or you can always write us an email, feedback@cinemajaw.com. All right. What is the name of the town that it takes place in, Matt?
Derry.
Derry.
Yeah.
Fictional.
Fictional. Yeah.
Small town.
It is. In Maine, of course, where most of Stephen King's stories take place.
So because of this, we decided to do top 5 movies about small towns. Matt.
Yeah.
Tough list for you to come up with?
Not at all. No, not at all. I don't know why. I just sort of have a fascination with movies about small towns. Maybe because that's where I grew up. And especially this first movie, which I'm going to get us started out with here at number 5, came out in 1983. 83. Now, I'm not saying that this is a particularly good movie, but it is very noteworthy, as it was Penelope Spheeris's directorial debut. If I'm not mistaken, we got to throw that in the fish tank. If not, it is certainly very early on in her career. She may have done 1 or 2 of her documentaries ahead of this one. It's called Suburbia.
I have never seen it.
I wouldn't have expected you to. It's a cult film at best about a group of punk rockers who live in this small town, Suburbia, and they're all a bunch of runaways and orphans. The dialogue is the worst. I don't know if it's bad writing. I want to give the writing a little bit more credit. It's just terrible acting. It's like the worst ham-fisted deliveries I've ever seen, but none of it's played for laughs. It's like just very earnest in its crappiness. It's something you got to see. But as a kid growing up in a small town who was also a punk, this was one of the few movies we could look to see some of the bands like TSOL and like hear a good soundtrack, which just you didn't get in other movies. And of course, Flea is in this movie, and Penelope Spheeris would go on to do bigger and better things. So it's worth noting.
Should I see it, Matt? Should I write it in my journal right here?
Ryan, I guarantee you would hate this movie. You would come back and say, why did I waste my time on that crap? So everyone else, you'll probably love it.
All right. I lied, I guess, at the top. Now looking at my number 5. 4 movies I haven't really talked about on the Jaw. Number 5 is a pretty popular film that spawned a couple sequels that I can't vouch for, but the first one sure was a hit. I like movies about Route 66 and sort of the history of Route 66.
Oh, Cars for Disney Pixar.
Absolutely.
Really?
It is.
Get
Yes.
out of here.
The town was
was
Radiator
joking.
Springs. Radiator Springs.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
you got these old cars and this idea that that was small town America to some degree, you know? And the old car who was voiced by Paul Newman. I know Phil knows this character's name.
Doc?
Yes.
Yeah.
Paul Newman.
Yeah,
So Lightning
fantastic.
McQueen
I'm a
gets-
little surprised by this pick, I got to be
Well,
honest.
Lightning McQueen gets, into Radiator Springs, and the whole town feel of everything. It really comes together, and them driving around. I love that scene, the scenery of looking at old Route 66, the beauty of the West.
Dude, we're talking about Cars.
Yes.
Yeah, I think most of your credibility when you give me crap about a bad pick is completely out the window right now.
Here's the problem. I can't pick a nice popular movie like Cars.
I guess so. Yeah, sure you can.
Hey, you don't want to hang out in Radiator Springs? Don't come through
I
town.
like Radiator
Don't come
Springs.
through town.
I love Radiator Springs, but Cars that's an interesting pick, man.
I'm telling you, Radiator Springs is where to go.
Okay. I guess that leaves it to me. I'm going 10 years into the future from my last pick, and I'm going to relive that day again and again and again in Punxatawney, and I'm talking about Groundhog's Day. And the reason another very popular film, arguably better, Ryan, than Cars by Disney Pixar. It's arguable that Groundhog's Day is a better film. The reason I'm picking this is because here's a guy, Bill Murray's character, who is very self-centered. He's very much that urban, no time to slow down, like just walking straight through you on the sidewalk kind of guy. And he gets stuck in this little backwater. And he does not like anything about this place. And it really shows what a community is, how everything functions together. Because he has to relive the same day over and over again, he really gets to understand the connections between everything in this town. Like, this guy knows that lady who's also helping this guy with his whatever it might be. But he starts to see these patterns and understand what community is, and thus, through the process, understand what love is, Ryan.
And he begins to like the town.
Oh, I think so.
Right?
But do you think he would go back to Punxatawney?
That's a good question. Would I, if I was in those same shoes? No, only for the reason that it may happen again.
Yeah. And plus, he's been there. He's done that. Mm-hmm. How long do you suppose he was in Punxatawney?
There's something in the fish tank. Throw it in there, Phil. I think we've even thrown this question into the fish tank once before.
Really?
Boy, that's weird.
Maybe we throw it in there every day, Ryan.
Yeah. Nice pick.
Thank you.
My number 4 is a small film that I'm hoping JawHeads saw. It came out in 2007. It may be Jeff Nichols' first feature. Can we throw that into the fish tank, Phil? Jeff Nichols' first feature, I believe.
Boy, we're loading them up today.
Yeah. It starred Michael Shannon. The film is called Shotgun Stories.
Never heard of it.
And Nichols would work with Michael Shannon numerous times. In this particular case, Shannon has 2 siblings, 2 brothers that we meet early on. One's living like in a tent and one's living in a car. And in the opening parts of the film, it comes to be that Michael Shannon's wife has moved out, or girlfriend, and so he invites those 2 brothers that were basically living on his lawn to like come in the house now and he can stay with them. Well, it turns out that their estranged father has passed away, but what happened was his father went on to have a whole second family when he got divorced from their mother that has 4 sons. And they all live in this small rural town.
And that's the way they all became the Brady Bunch.
But in this case, the father passed away, and Michael Shannon and his brothers have nothing good to say about their estranged father. In fact, they just dislike him and have hatred towards him, and they end up going to the funeral in which they're basically stepbrothers are, mourning and, honoring.
They're actually sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they just rip into, what a terrible father he was and for such reasons. And of course,
maybe not the time and place for something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Well, when you're in a small town too, this just brings in a humongous feud between these stepbrothers.
Oh, it's like a Hatfields and McCoy type situation.
A little bit. And there's some fights and maybe a death or two.
Does Michael Shannon chomp on a jawbreaker the whole time?
Very interesting film though, and really, really well done. It's one of those films that where the characters you could just feel that they're like lived in, like it completely feels authentic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you could see that this is how it is in these towns with these, nowhere to go, nothing to do, and you just start trouble with the other family. See Shotgun Stories if you can. It's great.
It's a good one, man. I'm impressed by that pick. You've redeemed yourself.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going with another very popular movie that I think everyone listening to Cinemajaw is very, very familiar with. I have not mentioned it in a long time, but it fits very well into the small town genre, and it's right in the title, Fargo. Fargo, North Dakota is a place that I had heard of before this movie came out, but I had never really stopped to think about what it might be like in Fargo.
This is a bit of a cheat.
Is it? Why?
Because I think from our vantage point, being in Chicago, we think Fargo's small town. But can we throw this in the fish tank? Population of Fargo. It's a decent size city. When I say that, I mean it's not
well,
like...
you got to be talking relatively speaking.
It's not like Radiator Springs where there's no people just talking cars. It has some people.
Even the insects in Radiator Springs were actually anthropomorphic vehicles.
But what I'm saying is Fargo actually it has some population.
I guess. Well, at least in the movie, the Coen brothers do show it as a very sparsely populated, snowed-in kind of, nowheresville. Which and I apologize to any listeners in Fargo. I'm sure it's a beautiful place, and I'd like to visit, especially because I'm a huge fan of this movie, which I don't think is anything less than a love letter to the city, but a strange one.
I hate to ruin it for you. The briefcase full of money isn't there, Matt.
How do you know? Maybe just hasn't been found yet.
All right, my number 3 is a film that actually makes fun of the small town, wholesome America that we saw portrayed on television screens in the 1950s and 60s and such. 1998. I don't know the last time we talked about this movie. Tobey Maguire, teamed up with Reese Witherspoon, Jeff Daniels, William H. Macy, and Joan Allen for Pleasantville.
This is a good one. Toyed with putting this one on my list.
Nice. So the idea here is, if you haven't seen Pleasantville, is that Tobey Maguire and Reese Witherspoon are brother and sister.
And it's a very Leave It to Beaver-esque situation.
And they're watching this television program in which takes place in Pleasantville. And they're fighting. I can't remember how the gimmick comes up, but somebody gives them a new remote control. Somehow they zap themselves into Pleasantville is the idea. And it's in black and white. So the movie now is in black and white. And it's all the wholesome town. And there's gags in there like crazy, such as you can't start a fire in Pleasantville. And there's no fire department, and so on and so forth. The gags are aplenty because everything's perfect in Pleasantville. But what we really come to find out is that they're also not living life to the fullest, man.
Right. They're in emotional anguish.
Right. And what ends up happening is that Jennifer, played by Reese Witherspoon, ends up having sex with her boyfriend, which is unheard
Suddenly
of.
brings color into
it's
Pleasantville.
unheard of in Pleasantville. Well, all of a sudden, the screen starts to get colorful. And it's a pretty good sort of gimmick
Visual,
in the film.
yeah.
Visual take on the whole thing. Well, the town begins to follow suit, and more color enters Pleasantville. I was looking online, and director Gary Ross stated that this movie is about the fact that personal repression gives rise to larger political oppression. That when we're afraid of certain things in ourselves, or we're afraid of change, we project those fears onto other things, and a lot of very ugly social situations can develop. Sums it up perfectly in the theme of Pleasantville.
It does. I don't remember it being quite that deep, but I guess that's true.
And of course, that's coming from the director who directed it, so I think he's hoping we get that message. This is a film I wrote down after doing the research on my rewatchables, because it's been many moons since I've watched Pleasantville.
Yeah, same with my next pick, man. 1996. This is a movie I have talked about before, but I really enjoy this movie, and it's been a long time. Directed by Ted Demme, who I'm not super familiar with, but man, this is one of my favorite movies. Beautiful Girls.
I have not seen this movie.
Okay. It is Matt Dillon, Uma Thurman, Natalie Portman, Timothy Hutton, and Timothy Hutton goes back to the small town that he grew up and moves back in with his parents after a particularly bad breakup, or he just can't get his marriage back on the tracks or something like that. And he sees all of his friends from high school who have sort of gotten stuck in this town, and one of them drives a snowplow, one of them's an alcoholic now, and he sort of sees the different levels at which they've progressed. And there's this old flame is there, and it's a weird movie in parts, especially his relationship with Natalie Portman. But it's more than the sum of its parts. It's a great movie, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. Great performance from Uma Thurman too.
I just put this one in our Voodoo cloud where we can watch it. And And I did so because I know you've brought it up a couple times, and I thought I'll get to check this one out at some point.
You do.
Nice. My number 2 is an absolute classic. 1971.
Going way back.
Jeff Bridges, Sybil Shepherd, Ellen Bernstein, The Last Picture Show.
I've never seen it.
Oh, this is a classic. This is a classic.
It's a small town classic?
Oh, yes. Small town in northern Texas, to be precise. And the film is a snapshot of the lives of the people inside the small town. It captures the feeling of growing up with friends at the time, places and settings that we all know, like the pool hall or the movie theater, the diner, right? Roger Ebert, the great Roger Ebert, gave the film 4 out of 4 stars in his original review. He went on to name it the best film he saw of 1971. Then he later added it to his great movies list, writing that the film is above all about mood. It is about a town with no reason to exist and people with no reason to live there. The only hope is transgression. And it really does just capture the small town essence and living in a small
The
town.
hopelessness?
Yeah. and
Sometimes,
right? But what does give the people hope when they're there also? The relationships that these people, form. Great movie. And I wasn't that familiar with Sybil Shepherd. We grew up with her from...
Cheers.
No. Way off. Moonlighting.
Thank you.
Yes. So she was in Moonlighting, and I still didn't even know her really from there.
I'm not saying way off with Cheers.
Yeah.
No, not
Yeah,
really. No.
crazy.
Same era.
No.
Television.
No, not at all. So I thought, well, I don't know Sybil Shepherd, why she's so popular, like why the name was, around. But then you see her in something like this, and it makes sense. It was a total classic. Great movie to be part of.
Nice.
Highly recommend The Last Picture Show if you haven't seen it.
I have not, so I'll take you up on that, man. All right.
This is our number ones, Matt.
Here we go. Mine comes from 1946.
What?
1946.
You've never seen a movie past 1980.
I've seen this one, though. Everyone's seen this one. I'm not stretching too far out of the box. Bedford Falls.
Oh.
It's a Wonderful Life. You want the moon, Ryan? I'll get you the moon. It's a Wonderful Life. I don't have too much to say about it, except the theme of small town is a major, at least plot device in the movie, right? Because he, as the banker, loses the faith of the people, and he's like, come on, I did your taxes a year ago, and you knew me when I was just a little boy. You babysat me. So it's all about the trust of a community versus big business and money and these types of things, and personal value versus business value and whatever. There's a lot of themes going on that have to do with the community.
Plus, it's very easy to show when they want to use the effect of showing the difference that he made with his life. Within a small town structure, it's very easy to show the ripple effect or the domino effect of what would happen.
Right, because he always wanted to get out and do more with his life, and he felt he had wasted it somewhat there in Bedford Falls.
And it's great that you say that exact line, that he always wanted to get out and he felt that he wasted it in Bedford Falls, because that is the theme of my number one film. I don't think I've ever talked about this one on Cinemajaw, yet it is, I believe I would put Masterpiece next to the title. 1988, it is a foreign film from Italy. I'm speaking of Cinema Paradiso. And the whole theme in here is
How do you go from Cars to Cinema Paradiso?
How did I do it? But the theme here is not only small towns, but also just the love of cinema. So, of course, critics and people who love movies are going to have an extra reason why they're going to love Cinema Paradiso. The film opens with Salvatore having to return to his small town in Sicily. And so he's older, and he hadn't been back since he was just a kid. That's all we know. And when he goes back there, he's going back for a funeral. And the person that he's going back for turns out to be this older gentleman that now it flashes back. Now we get the big flashback to when he was a kid. Turns out he was this older gentleman that was a father figure to him that ran the local movie theater. And he showed him back then how to run like the projector and all the fun that the townspeople, you sort of get to know the locals in this small village that were going in to see the movies weekly. And there's a priest there that would actually edit out the films of like anything that was, a little naughty, people kissing or anything like that. He would actually cut out the film, splice it. And little Salvatore gets to start to run the projector. A fire breaks out at the theater, and the main guy goes blind, so he needs Salvatore to sort of run the movie theater. And he starts to do that, and he has this love of cinema, but it's this older guy who then tells him, you're just going to get trapped here if you stay here the rest of your life. You need to leave, and you can never look back because you got to chase your dreams, because he wanted to be a filmmaker, and he had taught him all this stuff of the history of film and movies. And he just said, leave and don't come back. You'll be better for it to chase your dreams. And he does that. And the first time he returns is, to go to this guy's funeral. But what you realize at the end is, yeah, you can run away from that small town, but it's that small town that made you, So you can never really go away from it, because those values that he learned as a kid and growing up in that town are still with him to that day, no matter where he went in the world to go on to make those movies. He still has the influence from everyone in Sicily.
Suddenly I have an urge to go to New Fairfield, Connecticut.
Show him, Matt.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait.
Cinema Paradiso really is an excellent watch. So on the small town level, it has that, but it really is an ode to just great cinema and that feeling of a collective group of people getting together in the cinema and laughing and being, emotionally moved by, pictures from all around the world that were coming in. It's great.
Okay.
See it. Any honorable mentions here, Matt, before we go to break?
I got a couple, 2 or 3. What's Eating Gilbert Grape? Also about small town gossip.
Honorable mention of mine. Yep.
The Bridges of Madison County. I mean,
That's a tearjerker.
small town.
No doubt.
Tremors. Hey, if you could put Cars on your list,
All right,
I could
I'll
have
give it to
Tremors
ya.
as an honorable
All
mention,
right.
man. And then I had Pleasantville as well. So
Okay,
how
I
about you?
had Mud with Matthew McConaughey.
It's a good one, yeah.
Wind River, which was the recent Elizabeth Olsen film.
Yeah, I
which
didn't
sort
see
of
this
takes place on the Indian reservation, in the town.
It's Hawkeye's in it, too.
Right. You also I had Gilbert Grape, American Graffiti.
Yeah. I mean, I've never seen it, but I'm
It's
very aware
great,
of it. Yeah.
right.
It's George Lucas.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And last but not least, small movie called The Majestic, which was the Jim Carrey coming back and The Majestic being the movie theater in town. And not the best movie, but when you're talking small towns, it deserves a mention.
Is it trying to be a modern day Cinema Paradiso?
I thought that. I'd have to rewatch it. It's nowhere close. I don't think I see the resemblance. So.
Good honorables.
Yeah, there you go. If we missed your favorite movie dealing with small towns and you have Twitter pulled up, shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw or an email, feedback@cinemajaw.com. What we're going to do is take a break. When we come back, we got some Hollywood headlines talking about Netflix's fall slate of movies and
Trivia?
yourself first, Phil.
I'm going to keep my streak going, Ryan.
Stick with us.
Let's all go to the lobby.
And now, Nicole Kidman tells us why we have children in the underrated thriller Stoker, which came out in 2013.
I've often wondered why it is we have children in the first place. And the conclusion I've come to is at some point in our lives we realize they're screwed up beyond repair. So we decide to start again. Wipe the slate clean. Start afresh. And we have children. Little carbon copies we can turn to and say, you will do what I could not. You will succeed where I have failed. Because we want someone to get it right this time. But not me. Personally speaking, I can't wait to watch life tear you apart.
The sparkling drinks are just dandy.
Hey, Jawheads, it's Matt K. People always ask me, hey, Matt, how can I support the show? There's a lot of ways. One cool way to do it is buy some Cinemajaw merch. We got lots of cool stuff. Recently, we posted a picture of a coffee mug you could get. And how do you do it? It's quite simple. You can go to cinemajaw.com, click on the Support the Show tab, scroll down just a little ways, and you'll see our T Public store where you can get t-shirts, hoodies, stickers, and yes, coffee mugs. Or if you're lazy and just want to go directly there, just go to tpublic, that's T-E-E public.com/Cinemajaw, get some cool gear, and it helps us out at the same time. And we thank you in advance.
And we are back on Cinemajaw, Matt. It's been a blast already, has it not?
Always, man. Always.
I'm looking forward to doing some Hollywood headlines.
Me too. This has become one of my new favorite things.
And I'm looking forward to Phil taking you on in trivia. Always a tense rivalry.
Yeah, it is. Not so tense for me.
Before we get there, we did throw a few items into the fish tank. I know Phil wants to swim up to the top and let us know what we got wrong. Let's open up that fish tank.
Wait a moment! It's fish! Isn't it?
DC! Wake up! Wake up! No, Pat, it's a giant glass bowl. folk.
Who's coming with me besides Flipper? Here.
That's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yes, not. I don't think you guys got any. Oh, no. Matt got some stuff wrong.
Yeah,
Actually, I take it back. I take it
Hey,
back.
Phil, come on.
When hasn't he? When hasn't he?
I forgot about that one, and I only bring that up because it is the first one. It was Suburbia Penelope Spheeris's directorial debut, and it is actually not. Her first feature film she made while as a student. I couldn't tell if it was a student film. It sounds like it wasn't.
If it was
she just
made while
happened
she was,
to be. Yes.
Okay.
But it was called Uncle Tom's Fairy Tales, and that came out in 1969. But then also, 2 years before Suburbia is The Decline of Western Civilization.
Which I did mention was probably
Yeah.
before. This is her first narrative film.
Yeah, and they were like in the same neck of the woods. It was only 2 years difference, so it was around the same time. Our second one, how long was Phil in the town of Punxatawney in the film Groundhog Day? This one is interesting. There is not actually an official consensus on it. Originally, Harold Ramis said that he was in the town for 10,000 years. Based off of Ramis is a Buddhist, or was a Buddhist, and in Buddhism, it takes 10,000 years for a soul to move to its next level. But later on, commentary DVDs and stuff, he had then said it was like, well, actually 10 years sounds more about right. But then even later, in interviews after those DVD commentaries, he said, yeah, I thought that 10 years was maybe a little bit too short after thinking about it, and maybe it's 30 or 40 years, which was not in consensus with his co-writer Danny Rubin, who said 100 years. It's kind of unclear. There was a article by What Culture where they did the math and took the average of what everybody was saying, and their estimate is 12,395 days, which in the end comes out to about 34 days. 34 years. 34 years. I apologize. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought the whole time. 34 years.
I was thinking.
Did you think exactly 12,395 days to be exact?
Of course I did, Phil.
Yeah.
Of course.
I'd like to see the calculus on that though, like how they made the calculations and what they were thinking. Like,
it was math.
Yeah. It'd be interesting though. It's interesting.
Not that he needs to hear it, especially after the Penelope Spheeris fact, but was Shotgun Stories Jeff Nichols' first film, and it was. That came out in 2007, and then he would not go on to make another film until 2011's Take Shelter.
It's another one of your favorites.
Love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's also Michael Shannon, so...
And then our last one in here, what is the population of Fargo? As of the 2017 U.S. consensus, Fargo, North Dakota has a population of 122,359 people.
Not exactly small town.
Right. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, small town, we're not talking 100,000 people. It's a small town.
No, that's true. It's got a small town vibe, maybe?
I don't know. Like I said, I think that's just because we're sitting in Chicago.
Could be.
So to us, it feels like it's a small town, but...
My apologies to the people of Fargo.
Right. There you go. That's what I was getting at.
We love you guys.
Was that everything?
You betcha.
All right.
You betcha.
Yeah, jump back in that fish tank, you townie.
Will do.
All right.
He's a fish tank townie.
Matt, we had a blast with some Hollywood headlines last week, so we thought, why not do it again?
Why not?
What do we got this week, Phil?
As you guys may have heard, our boy, Marty Scorsese, his next film will get only a limited run theatrically. It'll be released in cinemas November 1st and then released on Netflix November 27th, something that Netflix seems to be doing a lot more of because they also have limited theater runs for The King, Dolomite Is My Name, and The Laundromat.
So this is how they qualify for the Oscars.
Right, to some degree, right? But
would they qualify had they not released it?
Yeah, I mean, one of the qualifications is always that a film has to play at least in one theater in New York and one theater in Los Angeles. That's always the main qualification in the year's time. So in the year that it's qualifying for, it has to play one theater, at least one showing, and one theater, one showing in Los Angeles and New York.
So you just do two premieres and...
Right, it could be done. But I think it's interesting. There's two ways of looking at this, right? 2 years ago, Netflix had a very hard stance saying they were not going to do theatrical releases of their movies. It just wasn't going to happen. And I find it odd that where they actually got the pressure and somewhat caved in was not from the fans.
It was Roma.
But it was actually the filmmakers. Okay, now they want to team up with somebody like Alfonso Cuarón, and he wants to make something like Roma, and he's getting the financing, but he's telling even them, I'm only doing this if you're getting me a theatrical release of the film so that some people can see it on the big screen the way I'm envisioning my artwork to be seen, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're going to put it out, and a lot of people are going to see it on beautiful home theaters and such, but I do want people to have the ability to see it on the big screen. That's how I envision it. And also, Martin Scorsese. It's been, you can read articles where Scorsese said he was only going to make The Irishman with Netflix's cooperation if it got some type of theatrical release. Like, Scorsese doesn't want his movie to only be seen on televisions at home. He wants something out there to be seen on the big screen if people so choose to.
Yeah.
So they are caving in to some degree, but not to the degree of like the AMCs and the big chains, which are still holding to that 90-day rule. So that's why it's not going to be seen in any, major chain. You're going to have to get an independent movie theater, maybe like the Music Box or even the Century. That's like a
because
smaller
the big chains
chain.
just won't show it without a 90-day.
Without a 90-day, and they feel if they cave, then what's going to stop every movie theater, every movie studio, to then start breaking that 90-day rule? So they got to be a hard stance with Netflix, or else. You know what I mean? It's either one or the other. Once they break it, it's like the floodgates are open. They're never going to be able to hold that 90-day rule.
Do you think that would spell the beginning of the end of movie theaters? Or maybe just the big chains? Or
I don't know. It's interesting.
It is. Things are changing.
If we went back in time, there was either a cinema war or an argument we got on in like one of the first 2 years where you had said within 5 years there wouldn't be a movie theater left in the country. And I remember like, Matt, you're just being just ridiculous.
I like to make bold statements.
Even now where we sit, they're never going to go away. It's so part of our culture.
Well, it's like records. Records haven't gone away.
Right.
Even CDs. Some people swear by them and hold on to that medium, laser discs.
Yeah. But it is interesting to see that the actual pressure that Netflix is actually feeling is coming more from the filmmakers who are making it that are demanding that their film be shown in cinemas also. And I guess it's costing Netflix a ton because in a lot of cases, they're going to be renting out these theaters, whereas normally I guess they give these movies to the theaters and they split the revenues, where here it's more or less like Netflix is renting out a movie theater for, 3 weeks at a time to show their movie.
Yeah. Listen, in my defense about that comment, I think I was right in a sense because this was longer than 5 years ago. It might have been 7 or 8 years ago that I made that comment. And since then, we've seen movie theaters change completely. At that time, I remember we were sponsored by the New 400, which is a local theater here in Chicago, very small, old vaudeville house that got converted into a multiplex, very small one, 3 or 4 screens. And they served full liquor bar. They had a full liquor bar, and that was a novelty. Like, you couldn't get a beer at a movie theater. Now they all have reclining seats. You can get a beer at every single movie theater here in Chicago, I'm pretty sure. I mean, it's rare that you can't anymore. And the entire movie-going experience has become more luxurious in that time. There was still crappy theater seating, but now you say theater seating, and you don't think crappy. You think very nice.
Exactly. Changing to the times.
Yeah. So I think it's still going to be here. It's just going to become more of a luxury experience, I suppose. I don't know.
I threw a question out onto Twitter from Cinemajaw's Twitter feed, and it just asked, saying, hey, The Irishman's going to get just a limited release. If you had the choice to watch it at your home as part of your Netflix package or go out and pay extra and see it in the movie theater, which would you choose? And the last I looked, we were at about 65% said they'd go to the movie theater to see it. So there's still the demand to go see it on the big screen by movie fans, obviously.
Yeah. I don't know where I stand anymore. I do see the value in seeing something, and especially after what Ryan Ostreich had said about 70, that you should see something in the best format possible.
Right. And then someone tweeted that the Irishman's running time is something like 3.5 hours long. And then they said, so throw that in the conversation. A lot of people are going to say, rather just sit on my couch and watch something that's 3.5 hours. But
yeah, maybe you can pause it if you got to go to the bathroom.
We'll be seeing it though.
For sure.
Alrighty, our next one, very exciting, but changing gears in a big way. Midsummer by Ari Aster, the horror film that came out earlier this year, is returning to theaters triumphantly with a special director's cut, which will add 30 new minutes to the film that have never been seen before.
Strangely haunting movie, isn't it? That has stuck with me.
I raved on it here. This was before you had saw it, so.
Yeah. I did catch up with it, and I really enjoyed my time in that strange commune. The movie is beautiful too. Like, as horrific and disturbing as the content is, there's also something strangely welcoming about it. And I wouldn't mind spending an extra 30 minutes there. And I've read up a lot about what this bonus footage contains, and you do get to find out what happened to a couple of the characters who just disappear and die off screen. You get to witness their demise. And I'm game, man. I might go see it.
Well, I think, too, there's probably a lot of people out there that have that vibe of that was a one and done because it might have sort of disturbed them and hit a nerve. A lot of times, the movie that about addiction that you don't like, that Aronofsky did.
Yeah.
Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah. Right? So it might have had that effect with a lot of people. So by throwing in an
I
extra
do
30
like the
minutes,
movie, but yes, it's a one and done.
Throwing in an extra 30 minutes, it may, get people interested to go back and check it out one time.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd go to the theater to see it the extra 30 minutes. I think it's more set for like a special edition DVD, Blu-ray, or, digital release. And I might check it out. I'm interested in it, though.
I'm just excited. So, as you guys know, like, my bread and butter, the only movies that I will consistently see are animated films. If I'm seeing a live action, it's usually because it has some nostalgic value to me, or it's a horror movie. And I gotta say, I think that this year has been a groundbreaking year for horror. I don't even think that's me saying that. That's undeniable proof. And I'm super excited that a film like this can have a re-release, and it will undoubtedly create like a new, if this year hasn't already, create like a new, like a revival, a renaissance of horror films, which I am super stoked for.
I applaud the studio for doing it too. It's great.
Yeah, I agree.
Then our last one. So Ava DuVernay is going to be leaving her work with the upcoming Netflix documentary about Prince, the artist formerly known as.
I believe he's Prince again.
Who knows?
He's Prince.
I mean, he is very formally at this point. But anyways, she cites creative differences as the reasons she is departing.
Don't know how I feel about that. She obviously made the wonderful documentary 13th,
yeah.
That was great.
Fantastic.
And just the idea, because just from that headline, I didn't even know that Netflix was working on a Prince documentary. But talk about a great subject matter. Prince deserves a good documentary made about him. And I think she's pretty creative. So I'm probably a bit upset now that I'm thinking about it. I think she would have probably knocked it out of the park.
Probably, man. I'm curious to find out exactly what the creative differences were. We may never know. But that is a very interesting and sad headline. Sorry to hear it. Was that all that was in the news this week, Phil?
That was.
All right. What's next, Ryan?
Well, you know what's next. Trivia.
Oh, I know.
Everybody loves a good bout of trivia. And this week, as Phil is winding down his time with Cinemajaw, we are pitted. Matt, Kay, first. Phil.
I'm ready.
And although Jawheads, Matt has joked that he is undefeated. Not the case. Phil has defeated Matt a couple of times.
I don't know about that.
Well, I know for a fact. I'm looking at the Cinemajaw trophy that we made is sitting inside the fish tank next to Phil. So it says something.
That's just where I left it.
All right. In honor of It Chapter 2, we're playing It Chapter 2 cast movie trivia. Phil, since you don't play trivia every single week, you get to choose if you want to go first or let Matt K go first. There are steals, and if you get hung up on any question, you get one. Rescue me, Ryan.
Okay, well, so two things. First and foremost, does that Fandango gift card rule apply to me too?
Ooh. We don't have many of these to give out.
I know.
Fandango wasn't that generous.
Secondly,
I'll put a beer on it, though.
Well, that's great. Right at the end of the night.
Great way to end the night. You don't have to have
fine.
it right now.
No.
You know me. I will.
I'll see to it that this gets paid. And not out of the Jaw funds, man.
No, it's out of my own pocket.
And then the second one, I'm so glad that I'm immediately following Frank T. Ziti because every time I first met, I always cite Frank because of his advice that more people should take is that you always go first. You always go first.
There we go. Question number one.
I do.
Question number one goes inside of the fish tank to Phil. Jessica Chastain starred in Catherine Bigelow's Oscar-nominated film about the hunt for Osama bin Laden. Name the movie.
Zero Dark 30.
1-0, Phil.
He stumbled there. He wasn't sure.
I didn't remember the numbers.
There was just a pause. Question
I didn't remember
2,
30 specifically.
Over to Matt K. Matt, in 2017, James McAvoy starred with Charlize Theron in a film set in Berlin during the Cold War.
Atomic Blonde.
That was 2 years ago already?
Wow. Time's flying.
Yeah.
1-1. Question 3, back over to Phil. Bill Hader starred in Trainwreck. Name the actress who played the lead in the film.
I think that was Amy Schumer, wasn't it?
2-1, Phil. Matt, got to keep perfect with them.
Okay.
Question 4 is over to you. Jessica Chastain has starred in one movie with Matthew McConaughey. It came out in 2014. Name it. Long pause by Matt K.
Jessica Chastain
has starred in one movie with Matthew McConaughey. It came out in 2014. Name that film.
The Lincoln Lawyer.
Wow, incorrect. Phil, you got a chance for a steal here and to blow this thing wide open with a 3-1 margin.
I'm trying to remember this. So 2014 was my second year of college. And I'm trying to think about what came out around that time. And this is probably wrong because I don't remember her being in it, but my best guess is Interstellar. No way.
Absolutely.
That was 2014.
Wow. Yes, Jessica Chastain was,
Who was she
Interstellar.
in that?
She's the older version of his daughter. When time goes by.
With Michael Caine?
Yeah, the older version.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. 3-1, Phil.
I'm just disgusted now.
And question 5 is over.
Didn't I get 2 correct?
No.
See, I always get that wrong.
Phil, question 5 is to you. Bill Hader pops up in the 2007 film Hot Rod about a clumsy stuntman named Rod. Who played Rod in the film?
Andy M.F. Sandberg.
Wow. 4-1. You wouldn't even got that one right, would have you, Matt?
Hot Rod, for the record, is an underrated movie. That movie rules.
There we go. It is 4-1, Phil. Question 6 is over to Matt. Matt, you need all of these so far.
Okay.
James McAvoy starred in 2007's Atonement, in which he falls in love with this actress. Name his co-star in Atonement.
I didn't see Atonement. Who's going to give me a lifeline here?
You do have a Rescue Me, Ryan.
Oh, all right. Rescue Me, Ryan.
Whoa! Question number 6. What actress was in Atonement? Matt, your clue is stars in a lot of period pieces mentioned earlier in this episode. Stars in a lot of period pieces mentioned earlier in this episode.
Nicole Kidman. I don't know.
Incorrect, Phil. You can win it right here on a steal.
Does she talk like this? Keira Knightley?
It's an absolute slaughter by Phil. 5-1.
Couldn't remember.
Going out on an absolute high note here. Question 7 is over to Phil. Look at him. He's beaming over there in the fish tank.
Well, it had to happen sooner or later, Phil.
I will say the last time, Matt is a very good trivia partner, and I do miss like the non-competitive work relationship we had.
Question 7 is over to Phil. Phil, keep it going. In 2015, Jessica Chastain starred in a film directed by Guillermo del Toro. It also starred Tom Hiddleston. Name the film. Jessica Chastain Tom Hiddleston in a Guillermo del Toro film?
I don't think it's Pacific Rim, so I am going to get rescued.
Whoa! Question 7, Rescue Me Ryan. What was the name of that Guillermo del Toro film? Your clue, Phil, is the high point of a mountain is called.
Oh, it was like a haunted house thing, in like an orphanage or something. Crimson Peak. Was it Crimson Peak?
Jesus.
There it is.
Wow. 6-1, Phil.
I
This
still
is
wouldn't have,
unbelievable.
even with the clue, I wouldn't have gotten that.
Unbelievable. 6-1, Phil. Question 8 over to Matt K. Matt, in 2007, James McAvoy starred in the film Becoming Jane. It's about the early life of author Jane Austen. What actress starred as Jane Austen in the film?
What year?
2007. James McAvoy and who? And this who played Jane Austen. Young Jane Austen.
Mm-hmm. That was Keira Knightley also.
Incorrect. Phil, do you got a guess? I mean, you're on a roll.
Young lady in 2007. Emma Stone. I have no idea.
Looking for Anne Hathaway. Anne Hathaway in Becoming Jane.
Anne Hathaway wasn't that young in 2007. She was like 28.
Hey, Phil wins this one. Big time. 5-1, 6-1. I lost track. He just slaughtered you,
Knuckles through the glass.
Yes,
There you go.
there it is. A virtual handshake. If it came down to a jawbreaker, no funny joke on this one. Jawbreaker was this age of Andy Samberg closest to.
Well, Phil's got to know. He probably knows.
Matt, you got to guess.
I don't think he's. I think he's younger than I am, but not. I'll say 35.
Lock him in at 35. Phil, do you got to guess?
I think he's over the hill. Maybe.
Jeez,
I don't
what does that
know.
mean, Phil? Am I over the hill?
I'm going to give him the big 4-0. I'm going to give him the big 4-0.
You
just
just called us both over the hill.
No, I'm saying just to be safe, okay? 41 is well, yes, you are over the hill.
50 is over the hill, buddy.
He is right. 50 is over the hill. Not 40, but he is 41. Andy Samberg. He's all on top of this. Andy
Jesus.
Samberg.
Wow.
Yeah, 41 for Samberg. Wow, Phil wins this one. That was awesome. What a display by Phil. Who knew?
I've never been happier. I'm a little disappointed. I'm coming back for 2 weeks because I kind of want to quit while I'm ahead. It's only going to go down here from
This would have been a great way to go out.
Well, no, but it's probably
Screw
the
you,
last.
Matt. Screw you,
And
Matt.
where's my gift card?
It's probably the last time you'll play trivia. Unless
Probably,
you're
yeah.
back for a visit.
Oh, of
man.
course. My mom still lives here, so.
Whew, this has been a blast. First and foremost, we got to thank our engineer, the winner of trivia this week, in a display we don't see quite that often here on Cinemajaw. That was impressive.
I usually suck. Jawheads will know.
Thank you, Phil.
Yeah, but
Thank you,
for
guys.
some reason, when you're going up against me, you're great.
It's because of all the Andy Samberg questions. Ask me anything. It just happened to be all of those were like 2007, like right in my formative years, which I thank Ryan for.
There we go.
It's making a bunch of old jokes in there.
There we go.
That one was a dig, yeah.
Matt, we also got to thank our sponsors.
Yes, thanks to Overcast and the Chicago Podcast Co-op who help us get great sponsors like them.
If you want to support Cinemajaw, the easiest way to do so is by leaving us a review wherever you are listening to this podcast.
And while you're there, click subscribe. One extra click really helps us out quite a bit.
Until next week, I'm Ryan, the movie guy.
I'm Matt K, and keep on jawing about the movies.